Hey guys, it's Rich Boy J here, back again with another video, and this is going to be the Vardos MOC build series, episode 14, and this is absolutely the biggest update that I've had so far. As you can tell, I have the finished Corvus sitting next to me, and that's really going to be the main event of this video, but I did get a lot done on the other side of this building over here, insofar as that main courtyard area with a lot of the hostages and stormtroopers and things like that, so I am super excited to show you guys what I got built this week. Before I get into the video, I do want to say special thanks to the person who donated this week on the live stream, Jedi Bob. Thank you so much. Your contributions will definitely be appreciated. If you guys aren't tuning into the live streams, I definitely urge you to do so. It's a great way not only for you to see the MOC early before the next update, but also for you to come hang out with a bunch of people who love Star Wars, to crack jokes, all that good stuff. It's a really good time all around. So without further ado, guys, let's jump right into the MOC. First thing I wanted to show you guys is this little courtyard over here. To make sense of it, you start from obviously the Corvus over there, walk up those stairs, there will be a door right there, and then you kind of walk through here, and this is really the point of the map that shows you, like, holy crap, the Empire's doing some pretty bad things. They got people being taken hostage. You can see a lot of stormtroopers lined up. And then there's also going to be, like, protesters on the opposite sides of these barricades once I get a few more of them built. I actually had, like, most of the pieces to build a lot more of them, but there was really just one piece that I didn't have enough of. So I'm going to have to place an order for those to make a few more of those barricades just so they can really, like, line this path and then come back over this way. But all in all, I really do love the aesthetic of the barricades sitting next to each other. I think that it's a pretty good representation of what they're supposed to be in the in the game. I also built a few of these smaller barricades. So those are, you can see lining some of the areas on that side as well as in that corner over there. And I had some extra ones that are probably going to be scattered somewhere about over here. Realizing I'm going to actually need to build a lot more of those because I don't have like any on the landing platform over there, so that's going to be something I'm going to have to do moving on to the landing platform of the MOC. One of the other things I did design was this little bench and trash can right here. Nothing too special, just a little thing to add a little bit more detail to the MOC. Those two things are actually sitting there in the game, so made it pretty easy in figuring out how to design those. I've actually left this section right here exposed, and if you guys are wondering what that is actually 2 wires and some copper tape. In short, the 2 wires go from that power source over there. So there's basically, like, to get power from here to on this side of the MOC with those 2 spotlights, and then there's actually going to be one of the bigger lights like that right here. I basically just ran 2 wires right below where this area is, and then they pull right up and connect to that copper tape. And then rather than having to run, more wires beneath the MOC, I just use the copper tape, which is quite a bit cheaper and obviously a lot thinner than the wires. And then that actually just travels literally beneath the MOC over to this side, and then you can see the wires able to travel up to those 2 spotlights. So I'm actually going to show you guys what those look like illuminated. But I left this area exposed so I can have basically space to put another one of those big lights like that. So whenever I really just sit down and build more of those, like, those things are, I mean, the design is pretty simple, but like getting the wires to run through it is such a pain. So that's kind of why I've been putting off actually getting one of those things built. One thing I'm sure you also notice is that, like, the protesters are definitely not in the uniform that they should be in. I basically just grabbed a bunch of shore troopers in order to tell myself, like, oh, like, obviously, the white stormtrooper guys are going to be the stormtrooper guys, but the shore troopers will be the protesters. So rather than, just wait until I got in all the exact torsos and hair pieces and hats that I needed for the protesters, I figured, why not at least have a placeholder so I can know exactly where they're going to be whenever I get to that point in the MOC. But all in all, I do actually, like, really love the way this looks. I think it just looks so much like Vardos, and obviously very reminiscent of the game. And I can't wait to have these people actually be, like, dressed appropriately and look like actual citizens of Vardos. I think this is going to look like a really cool area of the MOC. So I'm actually going to go ahead to the other side so you guys can get a better angle of this. So here's another angle of the pathway on the other side of the building. I don't know, like, having areas where there's more and more figures doing stuff makes the city look more inhabited, makes it look more lively as a MOC, and I really did enjoy getting this section built up. It was kind of annoying trying to figure out how to run the wires through those barricades, but once I figured it out, I was super excited about it, and I think that it actually turned out pretty well. So this is your other angle of the MOC. Last thing I want to do before we move on to the final part of the video is I want to go ahead and turn on the lights for this section so you guys can see those two spotlights illuminated. And alright, here are the spotlights illuminated. I know from this angle, like the light on the left really just looks like a blob of light, but you guys can get a pretty good idea of what it's supposed to look like. So yeah, obviously I have the main spotlights up there, then you come up here, then this pathway will be illuminated by those spotlights up there. I realized in the game that there's actually quite a few more of those spotlights, but most of them are like not working. The light is just not on, so I'll probably do a few like fake spotlights that are not actually illuminated. The only reservation I had with that is like that people would think the lights had blown out or something, that they're working, but I assure you there were quite a few lights in that game that literally just were not on. So all in all, really happy with the way this thing looks like. Please let me know what you think about this little courtyard. Obviously got to switch out the figures and of course cover up a lot of those rainbow areas, but I think I made pretty good progress on this side, and I'm excited to continue with it and then get those two buildings built up over there. Once again, it should be pretty straightforward just because it's literally just that the same design as that building, just maybe a smaller scale. So let's go ahead and move on to the main event, guys. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for a very long time. I have finally completed the Corvus. This build was about 6,500 pieces, which was pretty surprising to me. I honestly just didn't anticipate it being that many pieces. Size-wise, it's maybe like a few inches shorter in length than the UCS Star Destroyer, and that set obviously had like a much bigger bridge, but this one just ended up being so many more pieces. I'm thinking, honestly, a lot of it goes to a lot of the greebling that I did on the side. There's some really fine details in there that I'm actually quite proud of. Like, greebling isn't something that I have to do a ton of just because I don't super often build ships like this. But whenever I do get the chance to do it, I look forward to it, and I do think that it came out pretty well on this ship. But a lot of pieces went towards that. A lot of pieces actually went to these wings on the side, so it was quite the challenge, not only figuring out how to have, you know, these small, the light gray lines and details in it, but just keeping it to a rather slim form factor. Like, outside of the light gray details, the wing is literally just 2 plates in thickness, so figuring out how to do that while having a lot of those like great details on it and having it still be sturdy was quite the challenge. And then one of the even bigger challenges was figuring out how to have basically these like edge trim sections be the correct length and the correct angles to seamlessly fit across the perimeter of the triangles and shapes in the wings. Was quite the challenge, but whenever I did get it complete, I was super excited, and I think that it makes the ship just look so freaking awesome. Like, I can't even explain to you guys how excited I am to finally have this bad boy sitting on the landing platform. Like, it's one thing to have like the ship is obviously very cool, but to have it sitting here on the platform just looks so much like Vardos to me, and I really feel like having this here just adds so much more to the MOC. I am kind of bummed out that I'm going to miss out on like just being able to appreciate the detail in the landing platform, because this covers up so much of it, but it is well worth it with how beautiful this ship came out, in my opinion. I'm going to take you back around to this side. So the back is actually not 100% complete. You can see that the engine design was quite difficult to figure out, but I'm actually happy with the way it came out. One of the annoying things is like, I guess, I don't know if I just didn't order enough or the person didn't send me enough. Basically, this piece needed to add the lines right here, the sections that protrude, so you can see like there's these and they go all the way around, but they're missing right here, so I'm gonna have to order a few more pieces to be able to complete that. But all in all, really do love the way this thing looks from behind with those back engines. I also do have to add some plates to cover up a lot of those gaps back there. You can see it looks like pretty unfinished in there, but I just hadn't added the parts. Actually, the biggest reason I didn't add the parts was because I accidentally put a Technic pen through there when I wasn't supposed to, because there needed to be basically one of the pens with like a half pin on the other side, or actually I think it's just called a half pin. I need to put a half pin in there to like put some plates to cover up the Technic beams there, and I kind of screwed that up. So I'm going to have to like tear apart that part of the ship in order to be able to do that. But that is a job for future Jay. Current Jay is just going to appreciate the Corvus as it is right now. So let's actually move to the other side of the Corvus. So you can see in here, once again, there's ton of greebling, and then there's, I really do like the way this looks. My guess is those are all escape pods. Actually, they're probably not. I think those are probably too big to be escape pods. Like, when I think about it, a scale Corvus, like a TIE fighter, like this section right here is like a TIE fighter hangar, so I feel like if a TIE fighter can fit in here, like that would probably be too big for a Corvus, for an escape pod. I don't know. I'm sure some of you Corvus experts will be more than happy to let me know exactly what that is right there. But the other thing I did want to highlight is just the bottom of the ship. Like, it is kind of annoying that I spent so much time on it, and it's kind of hard to see because of the big wings that are on the sides and on the bottom. But I assure you guys, I spent so much time working on the bottom of this ship. It's such a complex design, but I think it's a very cool looking ship from the bottom. But one of the things you can appreciate, at least a little bit, is that bottom wing, which was extremely difficult to figure out. Not only because, like, obviously it's mounted upside down, so you have to make sure like the connection point is good enough to be able to handle the weight, and I basically just opted for a bunch of those 6x6 round plates, with some 3x3 round plates as well. But then also like this slight curve in there, so like the design of that bottom wing is more or less the same as this one, with like maybe a few minor differences. But the biggest difference, and I guess maybe it's not really a big difference because I think these wings are supposed to be that way as well. It's just maybe not as apparent. But when you look at it from the bottom, like the wing needs to be straight right there, and then it curves slightly up. So being able to figure out how to incorporate that into the design and then have like those hinges be strong enough to hold it up, because if you notice, like literally the only connection point is right there, and then the wing just has to kind of hold itself up from there all the way over to where the landing gear is. And like it ended up working out pretty well. Like, it hasn't fallen down or anything, which was one of my biggest concerns, because if it did, like, it would be extremely difficult to figure out another way to implement that design. But once I built this and figured out, holy crap, this is actually going to work, I was actually so excited, because that was, one of the things that you can't really simulate with LED. You can't simulate you can't simulate gravity. So it was nice to figure out that that was actually going to work out pretty well. So, man, just look at this thing. This thing is such a freaking beast. I'm going to have such a hard time deciding on one thumbnail for this build, for this video, but all in all, man, I'm so excited to have this thing finally built. One other thing I did want to show you is, I didn't even really realize this until I was designing it and taking close looks at the reference material, but there are like two of these turrets kind of on the side, and I made it to where it can rotate, so I guess that's accurate to the actual build. So I don't know, I thought that was kind of cool that, it has defense systems right there, and then it obviously has more turrets under these. I think for them, whenever the Corvus lands on this planet, there obviously would be retracted. There's no need to have the guns out when they just land on the landing platform. But I was thinking, maybe I'll make this like a weak connection so you can actually peel this off relatively easily, and then maybe I'll build something to where, like, if you want, you can have the turrets kind of retracted, or you can just set that on there and then it'll cover it up. So that'll be something I'll look into probably when I figure out how I'm going to distribute the instructions for this build. So the last thing I wanted to show you guys is that there is a little bit of an interior to this build. It's the bridge section, so you actually just go ahead and pull this up, and boom, we got ourselves a little bridge. So you can see I have 4 chairs for Imperial technicians. I actually probably should go grab those figures at some point. Got Iden looking out through the main window on the bridge, which was really important to me. It was really important for me to make the section big enough to where you could have a figure standing right front and center. Actually, there's space for a couple figures to be standing up there and looking out of the window. That was probably the most important thing to me with building this bridge section, and I'm glad I was able to accomplish that. But yeah, you can see the technicians would have their little consoles right there to work on, and then back here is actually a section you do see in the game It's a little console with like a hologram that pops up, and you see Dale, Iden, and Hask standing around this little console or hologram inducer right here. I don't know exactly what you call it, but basically they all stand around this. So I added, some spots for Inferno Squad. Once that battle pack comes out, they will be able to stand around and get their orders. So that's really going to finish up the Corvus, guys. Like, it has been such a long time coming from, initial phases of me just looking at reference pictures to me actually starting to build it, to me actually building it with real bricks, and now it is finally sitting here in its finished form, and honestly, I could not be happier with it. So, for anyone who is curious, to make it very obvious, yes, I will be selling the instructions to this. I still need to go back and refine a lot of the files that I made, just to make it easier for you guys, but I'll be very, very good about giving you guys updates for anyone who does want to build this thing. Before I head to the final segment of the video, I did just want to give you guys a pulled back view of the MOC. It's always very annoying to me when people do a showcase of a MOC and we have very few pictures that are just kind of a full view of everything. Everything's so close up, so it's hard to really gauge how everything really flows with the MOC. So I try to do a pretty good job with giving you guys good overhead views of everything, and man, this thing is so freaking cool. As much as I love those porgs there, I feel like I'm eventually going to have to remove them just so I can get a more realistic look of the MOC, but in the meantime, they can chill there. It's no huge deal. But man, having that Corvus there, I feel it literally changes everything about the MOC. Corvus literally changes everything. So, this is the MOC, guys. This is Vardos. I've been having a blast building this thing, and there's so much left to go, but I want to go ahead in the meantime and just appreciate everything I've been able to complete on this MOC so far. So let's go ahead and move to the end of the video, guys. Alright guys, that's going to finish up this week's update. I do hope that you really enjoyed it. Once again, sorry that it was a little late, but I really wanted to finish a Corvus. I didn't want to have it 90% finished. I wanted to get it completely done so you guys can see what it is going to look like when it's finally sitting on that platform in its finished form. So of course, let me know what you think about it in its finished state. I am just beyond excited that it is finally done. I remember sitting around for many hours trying to figure out how the heck I was going to design that thing, and the fact that I'm finally done with it is so exciting, and I'm glad that I can move on to other parts of the MOC, and that the landing platform really does look almost complete now, even though a lot of the smaller details like the cargo crates, various things like that aren't added to it. The Corvus really does make it look finally like a functioning landing platform with an actual big ship on it. So that is very exciting for me. Moving on to next week, I do hope to work a little bit more on that courtyard on the other side. Hopefully I'll be able to start those two buildings that are going to be kind of between the path that leads you to the other big tower that's going to be far in the back. So that's going to be a pretty exciting thing to work on. And then also I do hope to finally start working on maybe a couple of these buildings right here that are going to be right in front of that landing platform. I think that building that's sitting right there, it looks awesome, but I would love to have a few more buildings around it just to give a better aesthetic of the Vardos city feel. So those are going to be my goals moving on to the next week. That's going to finish up the video this week, guys. Like I always say, if you like what I do, go ahead and support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by smashing that subscribe button, and of course, I'll be back again very soon.